Greetings and welcome to our online spiritual practices for tough times. This is episode 3. I'm honored again to spend this time with you as we continue on this journey, and I hope you are well today as we gather. I'm Trevor Potter, and we're on location at McKillop United Church here in Lethbridge, Alberta. As we gather today, just a couple things. Once again, thank you to the tech team that's off to my left on stage here for their wonderful work. I'm really grateful and appreciative for their time. And also, we've been having some questions on tech issues. And so just really briefly, I think there's several ways you can watch this live or later on when you're at home. I know people are watching at midnight, all sorts of times. First of all, the one way is to easy way for people is to go search go to the YouTube online and then search for McKillop United Church, and then you want to scroll down the list until you get to the point where you see a colorful tree with handprints on it, and at that point, that's the link you want to click on, because that link is where the live stream box pops up if you want to watch us live. So I hope that works. We'll be posting some other places, ways to work with tech problems. One of the best ways is if you're having difficulties where we're live streaming, is to always refresh your page. If something stops running or if you can't hear us or the image freezes, the best thing is don't pick up your computer and smash it, because after that, well, you're up the creek without a paddle these days. So as we start our time, I'd like to light our candle to signify that there is divine light and sacred presence in all of us, in all of creation, in you and me, and in these tough times. And I hope you have a cup of tea, or maybe a coffee, or another beverage that we can join together in a time of communion. And even though I'm behind this camera, I want you to know that I feel connected to you. And I hope you know that you are deeply loved, and that whatever's happening in your life, whoever you are, maybe for these next few moments that we can just be together, and that we can relax, and that we can be on this journey together. How are you feeling today? To be honest, I'm sitting here and thinking, this is crazy. I mean, this is crazy that I'm talking to you like this, because I never expected it. And even though this is episode 3 and the 4th time that I've been sitting behind a camera this way, communicating to folks over the internet, just before the episode started, I said to the tech team, "Well, this is crazy," but here we are. And I mean, what gratefulness that we can connect this way and have time together. You know, it's really helpful for me as we start each of these episodes is that we just have a time of spiritual practice and centering. So once again, I would like to ask us to try this ancient practice of chanting a word, or a mantra practice. And we're going to use the word Ah, Bwa, Un. It's the one of the words for the divine in the Aramaic language, which is the language Jesus spoke. And it can mean the one unity that holds us all. It can mean oneness. It can mean breathing life, which I really love these days, that breathing life. We're breathing, you're breathing, the world's breathing, and there's this sacred presence that's breathing in us. And how do we connect to that? So the practice, if you've never done it before, is this. And you might want to consider trying this at home if it fits your heart or your disposition, is that you sit in a chair. You might want to close your eyes. You might want to sit a little taller and just let your body relax. And as we say the word Ah, Bwa, Un, I invite you to feel the vibration of the word in your body, and let it sort of settle in from the top of your crown through your body, through your chakras to the soles of your feet. And let your voice, you can see even now as I relax and connect with you and in this space, move from, the throat down into your heart and in your belly, so you actually feel the vibrations. So what I'll do is I'm going to ring our meditation bell, just have a moment of silence. I'll bow to you. And then I'll close my eyes and begin saying A Bwaun. And I invite you to join me as we say this. And at the very end, I will have a moment of silence, and then I'll ring the meditation bell to signify that our time is done. Are you ready? I think I am. So let us begin. A Bwaun. 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 How do you feel in your body now? Is your mind a bit quieter? I hope so. Maybe this feels strange to you, saying this weird word and chanting it and even trying singing it. What I'd suggest is that spiritual practices are a long-term practice. And they say it takes 40 days to change a habit. And it sort of takes 40 days to get used to something. And one suggestion for you is this. Maybe try this. When you get up in the morning, try it for 5 minutes. And set a timer on, and don't worry about background noise. This video by Headspace, which is on YouTube, and they have their own website. They have lots of great videos on different types of meditations if you're interested. Suggest this to help you develop spiritual practices.
Some days meditation will feel easy. On others, it might feel difficult. The trick is to gently stay with it each time, no matter how it feels. Look for a place in your routine where this exercise can slot in easily. Research shows it's easier to create a new habit when we do it at about the same time each day. We recommend doing it first thing in the morning, but you might need to be flexible with that. Find somewhere you won't be disturbed. Don't worry too much about background noise. I'll explain how to deal with that, but it might be easier at first if you have some peace and quiet. Make sure you're sitting comfortably before you start. Unless you're used to sitting cross-legged on the floor, I'd recommend using a chair. Sit with your legs and arms uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, and hands resting in your lap or on your legs. Try to keep your back straight, but not too tense. If you need it, a small cushion or a rolled up towel under your backside will help keep your back straight. And that's it. You're now ready to get some headspace.
Headspace is a wonderful site, and I just love the 3 steps. You know, spiritual practice is not that hard. It's not about being perfect. It's not about it's not about trying to consume something. It's about entering into this moment. Well, here we are. Hard to believe for me and our tech team. It's day 7 of our social distancing. A week has gone by since we have closed down all our programming here at McKillop United Church. Maybe for you it's a few less days, and I just can't believe a week has gone by. I know they were talking on the news that at the Globe and Mail that Trudeau's opened stimulus taps as Alberta laments profound adversity. So I'm really pleased to see that our community is opening up and that we're trying to care for each other, because that's so important. You know, spiritual practice can be about caring for people. And I think we have to be in the long run for this. In the news, they're talking about that here in Alberta, that we may be in this time of social distancing and adversity and looking for new ways of how to carry each other, potentially to the end of April or even to the end of May. And so during that time, I think it's really important to have boundaries. And I know that the Mind Geeks have this wonderful comic that was put on our Facebook website by Tiff, who runs our Affirming Ministries, and just has some gentle reminders for when the world feels frightening. You know, set boundaries with what and how much media you consume, because I think I know I have to limit that. I get quite depressed now when I look at that. You're allowed to opt out of overwhelming discussions. Try to respond to the fears of others with respect and understanding. Focus on the many things you can control. And also be mindful of when it's becoming more than just being informed. And breathe, connect, take care of yourself and others. And I think that is why we're offering these episodes on spiritual practices for tough times. And it reminds me of these tulips growing in our backyard. As we're going through these tough times, I hope you realize, and I hope you can experience, and I hope you can allow yourself to realize that life is still going on, that spring will come, that there will be moments of joy and beauty of our lives and the moments of fear and despair and our lives going out of control, and we're saying, this is crazy, can we make it? And that's why I hope you can find a spiritual practice and continue to join in with us as we explore how these spiritual practices can help us with these tough times. You know, the goal of spiritual practices, if there is any goal, it is really to just be here and now, to be present to life just as it is. And one of those things that we learn in our Christian lineage, and it's been part of millennia of our Christian and Jewish lineage, is this wonderful reality. It's not a fact, it is a reality that we can experience. And this reality is that we, you and me, and all of creation are the image and likeness of God. This is our reality, that we are the image and likeness of God. And what does that mean? Well, you know, it means, as Meister Eckhart said, a 13th century mystic, he said, the seeds of God are in us. I hope you can experience this during these tough times. And maybe I'm sure you've experienced it before in subtle ways. We all do. That the seeds of divinity, the seeds of this image of the divine are in us, and no one can take that away. I hope you never, ever let any situation or any person of prejudice or any enculturation tell you that you are not worthy, that you are not beautiful, that you are anything less. This is our birthright. This is the original goodness and wholeness is in me, it's in you, it's in the whole world in this moment, that there's this image. And that really the spiritual path is this, that we are spiritual beings on a human journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. And this is the next step. This image of the divine can't be taken away from us, but part of the journey is living into this likeness. It's like we have this spiritual DNA in us, this DNA of beauty and joy and peace and grace and tolerance and forgiveness and charity. But it does take a way for this DNA to be expressed. It just doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't happen because you can magically, because you think about it. I wish it was that way. But there's this journey of how do we come to the realization that we're both divine and human, and we let this be expressed into the likeness of God. Maybe you've met people like that, who just have this likeness of beauty, this likeness of charity, of total acceptance and love. They're all around us. And nature for me often is that place too. When I go into nature, I just feel this likeness of the divine and God just bubbling over and everywhere. And everywhere. And so while we're practicing social distancing, know that you don't have to practice social distancing from nature. You might have to practice from the people you meet in nature, but don't limit yourself from the spiritual practice of being in nature. Richard Rohr said in this quote that we cannot attain the presence of God because we're already totally in the presence of God. What is absence is awareness. Let me say this again for you. We cannot attain the presence of God because we're already totally in the presence of God. What is absence is the awareness. And so, for me, what's really important about spiritual practices is there to help us become awake and to aware of what's already there. It's really simple. We have everything we need. It's already here. It's already with us. Jerry Root, in this next video clip from a movie produced in 2006, it's a documentary called Be Still, says it this way through Evelyn Underhill, who was a giant of a mystic in the 19th century.
Evelyn Underhill would be a relatively modern contemplative. She died in the early 1940s. At Oxford University, you had to be a male to teach until Evelyn Underhill came along. She was the first woman given lecture-wide status throughout the university. She was a towering intellect. She wrote 39 books in Christian spirituality and philosophy of religion. And Evelyn Underhill tells a great story about a friend of hers who had been to Scotland, to the island of Iona. Now, Iona is an island that's sacred to the Scots because it's where Columba first brought Christianity to Scotland. Every Scot needs to make the pilgrimage to Iona sometime in their life because the roots of Scottish Christianity are there. Well, Underhill's friend had been to Scotland and had been to Iona, and when she returned, her Scottish gardener said to her, "Where did you go for your vacation?" And Underhill's friend said, "I've been to Iona." And he says, "Oh, Iona's a thin place." She said, "What do you mean?" He said, "It's a thin place because there's not much between God and Iona." And all of life, properly looked at, in some senses, is a thin place.
Isn't that amazing? All of life, if viewed properly, is a thin place. You sitting at home right now, maybe lying in bed or watching this later, you are in a thin place. I know we're in times that none of us have ever experienced. I mean, I'm yearning after watching that video that I wish I could go to Iona and just escape from all of this. But the beautiful gift of reality and our lives as spiritual beings on a human journey is that every moment is a thin place. It's a thin place when we're scared. It's a thin place when we look out our windows and see the buds forming on the trees as spring comes. It's a thin place when we sit down with people now at home in our tables in our small groups and eat together. That is a thin place. It's just everywhere, if we really want, is a thin place. C.S. Lewis said, in essence, God is walking everywhere incognito. Everywhere we go, there is burning bushes. And this is what I hope maybe is the gift of these tough times. Do you know every tough time in our life has a nugget of gold? Every part of our life where we have suffering, it's not that we are hoping for suffering or we want suffering or we deserve suffering, but within these moments of suffering, which is part of the unity of life, there are nuggets of wakefulness and gold. And maybe while we're going through this as a human species right now, all over the globe, in connection to this, we can wake up to these moments of gratitude and beauty and thin place. Teresa of Avila, who is a 15th century Spanish mystic and another amazing woman, said this: the fullness of joy is to behold the divine everywhere. That's another way to say that we are in the midst of thin places in every moment of our life. And how do we wake up to these thin places? How do we enter into them? Well, really for me, they're about these moments of having spiritual practices, of wakefulness, of consciousness, of consent. And what does that require from us? Well, in a way, it requires a certain degree of concentration and a certain degree of attention. Attention not to get caught up in our mind that is racing and is full of survival mode and what ifs and what has been. And Lawrence Freeman of the worldwide Christian contemplative movement, in this older video, and I hope the video is in good enough quality for you, talks about what is attention. And as he talks about it, I want you to notice something. I think it was purposeful in how they filmed it. And some people have complained about it on YouTube and other places that there's very bad video production, but it's jerky. And maybe it's jerky because when we don't have attention and focus, that's how we feel. So hear these words from Lawrence Freeman.
One of the greatest sources of unhappiness in the world is distraction. The fact that we are distracted from what we're doing, we're distracted from the person we're with, we're distracted from the job that we're involved in, we're distracted from the present moment. And the cure for distraction is attention. How do we pay attention? What is attention, really? Well, we only have to think about how we think about receiving attention from other people to realize how important and powerful meditation is. If you have a problem and you need to discuss it with a friend, you go to see them, you want to sit and explain what you're feeling and what you're going through, and all you really ask of them is that they give you their full attention. That's the most important thing that they can do for you at that moment. And if they interrupt you after two minutes and start telling you their problems, or if they start giving you simple and obvious solutions to your problem, then you will leave them not feeling much better than when you met them. But if they do give you their full attention, then you have received the precious gift of self from them. That's what we do when we give attention to someone or something. We love them. We make that gift of self that is not easy to give, but is rich and rewarding for both the giver and the receiver. When you have received the gift of someone's attention, when they've really paid attention to you, they're really genuinely concerned, they open their hearts to you, then you feel loved, and therefore you feel much better able to cope with the problems and difficulties that you're facing. So attention is really the essential quality of all human relationships. If you love someone, you pay attention to them, and you love what you pay attention to. If you fall out of love with someone, it's because you can no longer give them your attention, or something has distracted you, maybe another person, or your job, or some entertainment. And to learn to pay attention is really to learn to be fully human. It's the essence of all good work as well, whether it's school work, whether it's professional work, whether it's work in a family, whatever you do. The work that you do depends for its quality upon the kind of attention you are giving to it. And attention means focus. It means simplicity. It means giving your attention to one thing, one person at a time. I don't mean in a fixated, compulsive, addictive way. That's not really attention. But to be able to really give yourself at that moment, in that work, to what you're doing or to the person you're with. Learning to meditate is learning to pay attention. It's the art of attention in the simplest, purest, most immediate way. When you sit to meditate, you let go of all the 1,001 different things. The Tao Te Ching calls it the 100,000 things that are going on in the head, in our minds all the time. And don't underestimate how distracted you are. The first thing we discover when we sit to meditate is it's very difficult to pay attention. To sit, to close your eyes, to be still.
What do you think of that video? I found it profound every time I watch it. You know, how to pay attention. How to give one's full attention and love right in the present moment. And when we feel someone giving us attention, we feel an opening in our hearts, don't we? And a safety in our bodies, and our mind quiets. And you know, right now as we're going through these tough times, I just think of all the things that we distract ourselves with are being taken away in some ways, other than the internet and Crave and Discovery Channel. And I wish I bought shares in Zoom and anything like that. But you know, our busyness is being slowed down, which we use to distract us. And so the essence of any spiritual practice, and they all have them in them, is helping us to learn to pay attention to one thing at a time, to one moment. And whether that's yoga, or if you do sitting meditation, or when we say Abwa Un, or in a moment here we're just going to breathe, it's all about helping to rewire our neural network, which has been trained by our Western culture to be so busy and to run around so much and to fill our time and to think the only way that we have any source of selfhood is by our production and our consumption and what we do. So I invite you to think about that and to feel it in your body, and maybe, you know, as we join here, the gift we have with each other right now, and I am really grateful that you're online right now, that you're willing to listen to me and my ramblings, but the gift I want to give you and me is that we are still connected in this moment and that we can have practices that help us to get through these tough times. So I want to invite us into this easy practice. It's really for beginners. It's 15 seconds of breathing practice. Or it's 15 breaths, however you want to look at it. I usually have to do 20 seconds because my mind is doing so much and it needs that much time just to settle down. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring the meditation bell again. I'm going to invite you to breathe, and then we're just going to have a moment of breathing. And if you find that it helps to count your breaths, like 1, 2, 3, like breathe in, breathe out, well, you do that. Or if it helps just to breathe, and when you find yourself thinking about, excuse my language, sorry, you're thinking about something or you're worried about what's going to happen, just go back to your breath. And at the very end, then I'll ring the bell, and we'll have our closing. So, would you join me? Let us have a moment of silence and of breathing together. So I invite you in this moment just to maybe close your eyes. Start to feel your body wherever you're sitting or lying down. And take in a breath. And as you take in that breath, just be grateful if you can for whatever you're grateful for. And as you breathe out, just let go of what you might be feeling heavy about. And then for these next 15 breaths or 15 seconds or so, maybe a little longer, just invite you to breathe, to be, to pay attention just to your breath in your body, with your heart, knowing that you are divine, that you are human. That you're going to be okay. That we're all going to get through these tough times. So let us breathe together as one life. Now slowly just come present again. As you open your eyes, where do you see beauty? Where do you see joy? What are you grateful just now in this moment? It reminds me of a poem that's gone viral. It was sent to me by one of the tech crews, and we put it on our Facebook page, and it's just growing. And I think it's a poem of hope. It's a poem of a reminder of paying attention. And I'd like to read it to you. It's from Laura Kelly Finucci, and you can look her up. She has her own Facebook and Twitter and all those social media things. But I'd like to read it to you as we end our time together. When this is over, may we never again take for granted a handshake with a stranger, full shelves at the store, conversations with neighbors, a crowded theater, Friday night out, the taste of communion, a routine checkup, the school rush each morning, coffee with a friend, the stadium roaring each deep breath, a boring Tuesday, life itself. When this ends, may we find that we have become more like the people we wanted to be, we are called to be, we hope to be, and may we stay that way better for each other and all of creation because of the worst. Isn't that, it's just amazing. You know, as we end this time, I hope you feel the blessing of the energy of this time together. I hope you can go throughout your day knowing that there's a flow in life. We can't see where it's going, but we can let ourselves fall into it. And as Julian of Norwich said, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. All shall be well. We'll see you next week on Tuesday. May your weekend be blessed. May you be safe. May you be smart. And may you be blessed.